They have asked you to speak only about the ethical aspects of the problem and to explain why your solution successfully handles any ethical issues. You will have 10 minutes. There will be no Q&A. You may not use slides or video. And the same things applied to yesterday when it comes to simple, practical, common sense language methods, not technical, ethical talk. Some of my favorite terms like teleology and deontology are potent. And not to read, although you may use notes and any questions about that. So we'll just do the 10-minute, one team at a time, LaSalle, Florida, Montgomery, and LMU in that order. And then I'll give feedback at the end after all four. Well, all right, in that case, let's begin with LaSalle. And for everybody else's benefit, I'm setting the timer for 9 minutes. Okay, so it'll beep at 9, so that it tells you you've got a whole minute left. Okay. Let's see. Are you ready?
Yes.
Please begin.
Good morning. We would like to thank you for inviting us back to discuss the ethical problems that Uber has faced recently. Now, before we start, my name is Alicia Pshenichna.
My name is Matthew Simpson.
I'm Ann Brewer.
Although Uber has achieved valuation of $86 billion and has grown to become the most dominant force within its market, we have found several ethical problems that we wish to discuss today, set forth, and then offer solutions as well. Now, in relation to this presentation, we will talk about two different problems. Ethical problems in relation to privacy and transparency. To begin, we'd like to talk about GodView, which, as you know, is actually the platform where you can view where customers are at all times, and it also shows the name. And this is live time, so it can show when they're moving. Now, your CEO actually used this as a party trick, and many Uber employees have access to this as well. Furthermore, we'd like to talk about dummy numbers. Now, dummy numbers, as you know, are when a customer and a driver wish to contact each other. They are given fake numbers, and that's how they can call each other through, and it shows up as the caller ID. However, the problem stems out when after the driver can actually still retain that number and call back, and it'll call the customer, and vice versa. Lastly, we'd like to talk about transparency in the way that drivers are not fully aware of their responsibilities, and this is in the matter of expense reimbursement, the current services that Uber provides, and the future services that it may provide.
So now that we've gone over these problems, we would like to talk about the ethical ramifications that we have identified. As Alicia mentioned earlier, we have split these up between issues regarding privacy as well as transparency. Ultimately, we view these as the two prime areas that Uber has struggled in the ethical mindset. Ultimately, we view these as very common sense issues with common sense problems. We view Uber can quickly rectify by taking a very common sense mindset. To begin with privacy, we reference GodView, which is a clear issue the company has where they have marginalized the importance of privacy. Specifically, they seem to value their own entertainment over the privacy and trust of their consumer base. Instead of respecting that consumer's anonymity, they have instead showed it as a party trick and a way of laughing at almost their ability and their almost God-like mentality. In addition to that, we would also like to talk about the dummy numbers, which is clearly another area in which the company has struggled. While it was a novel idea to introduce anonymity and also protect consumers and drivers, they clearly have not gone far enough. They stopped short of their ultimate goal of protecting the consumer and the driver by not terminating or scrambling the numbers. This is another clear problem where they come up with a novel idea but don't go far enough to protect the consumer or listen to the complaints they have. They violate the trust, which is foundational for the ride-sharing economy, and it poses threats to not only the consumers and drivers, but the company long-term. Finally, these privacy issues are especially relevant considering the company's relationships with women. While privacy is relevant for all people, It is especially relevant when you consider the recent mistakes the managers and the company has made regarding their relationship with females. Over the past few years, they have partnered with an escort service, the vice president has openly threatened a female journalist, and the CEO has made sexist comments that have come public. Clearly, this poses a problem for the organization. Why should a female trust the company and trust that they will handle their privacy properly when those individuals make sexist comments and are not even punished for them? Clearly, this is a problem the organization has, and it is so problematic that Chariot, a new organization, was founded geared primarily to that female market. Uber has struggled so much that they have created a competitor, and this is a clear ethical issue that they need to address. In addition to privacy, we're then going to move on to transparency. In regard to transparency, they've struggled with their use of background checks, where they say they're the industry leader. After a lawsuit in February of 2016, it was found that Uber is in fact not the industry leader, and that claim was false. While we're concerned about the background checks, we're also concerned about them exaggerating their own statistics and achievements. This is something we want to emphasize, where they have been sued multiple times for apparently going too far and saying what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. Ultimately, Uber must be straightforward with their consumers and their drivers, and they're constantly in the news for going a step too far and being more concerned with their market share than being honest and straightforward with their stakeholders. In addition, we would also like to discuss their vehicle licensing program, which is another thing where Uber partnered with GM to try and get everyone to drive for Uber. They offered vehicles to drivers through a licensing program through GM, hoping they would then partner with Uber and drive full-time and make enough money to sustain their living. Unfortunately, they offered teaser rates and strict credit limits, which posed a real threat to these drivers. They are perpetuating a subprime auto loan bubble that is clearly problematic and will at one point cause dramatic negative impact on the firm. Ultimately, Uber must respect their drivers and consumers, and they have an ethical problem with how straightforward they are and also how they handle the privacy of those individuals. And that is something we hope to address with our ethical solution.
So now, to address these ethical issues that Uber's been facing with privacy and transparency, we're going to approach it from a top-down aspect to make sure you understand the most beneficial parts of these solutions that we're about to portray. First, with their most recent issues with privacy, we feel that you should establish a mandatory training session for both managers as well as employees. This is to help them understand the importance of confidentiality and how to handle secure information. Furthermore, we feel that there should be restricted access to this information, so no employees, unless absolutely necessary, are able to view it. This is to make sure that there's no mishandling of this data. Also, we believe that the data that they collect through their applications should be purely anonymous. While it's understandable that they may want the first name, we don't think it's necessary that they should have the full name, as well as all the payment information, locations of drop-offs, and things of the sort. This is just to help with the identity of the people that use the service. In this way, we really hope that they will be able to understand the importance of privacy and regarding their data collection. In regards to the privacy issues they faced with women, as Matt explained, we believe that it's important and very necessary to institute an ethics compliance officer. This is to avoid any biased or any cultural mindsets that may be portrayed throughout the company, so that any issues regarding such severe situations can be handled without any conflicts. This is just to make sure that all of the situations are handled in a proper disciplinary manner. In regards to transparency, we think that they should begin with, particularly with drivers, offering applications so they're able to have sort of a guidebook regarding things that they're expected to do as a driver, how their paying works, and any policy changes that might occur throughout the company. This is to help bridge that gap of communication that's been lacking in the last few years between Uber as a company and with management and with those drivers. Second, with transparency in regards to consumer, we think it's extremely important for you as the board of directors to stress the importance of being straightforward and honest with your consumers. In the past, we've had issues with, like Matt said, with this communication in general, so we want to make sure that that's portrayed properly, just to make sure, especially that you get that valuable, honest relationship with your consumers, as it's more important than all those lawsuits that you've been getting tied up with in the past few years. In conclusion, we feel that with your background as a technological company, all these solutions we propose are extremely doable. And while it might be hesitant at first, we feel that With these solutions, you'll be able to approach your ethical issues in a responsible and successful way. Thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing your response to our ideas.
Thank you.